I want to be in old New Hampshire. I want to go. Hi, I'm Ruth Craig. I'm the editor of the New Hampshire Genealogical Record. I'm here to talk to you about the spring 2023 issue, volume 35, number 2, which should be coming your way soon. And it's a beautiful spring day. I'm all dressed in black to commemorate people who have lost a child and children who have lost their parents. And as we know, this happened to many of our ancestors because, of course, it still happens today, and it's still tragic and heartbreaking. But it happened a lot. And many of my ancestors lost children, lost siblings, lost parents, because medical science was not where it is today, and there was nothing one could do. So this is relevant to the articles in this upcoming New Hampshire Genealogical Record. So we have 2 articles that have to do with smallpox as it occurred in New Hampshire in the 1700s. The first article is by Tom Jones, and it's an article about the Tucker family in a town called Hawk, which has since been renamed Danville. Hawk is not far from the seacoast. This family, the Tucker family, started out in Hampton Falls, which is on the New Hampshire seacoast, not far from Massachusetts. And then they moved inward to this town called Hawk, which is now called Danville. And they arrived in Danville somewhere around 1770. The thing Tom Jones has focused on is a couple that moved there, Joseph Tucker and his wife, Susanna, and their children. And unfortunately, within about a dozen years after they moved to Hawk, quite a number of people in the family died, including Joseph himself. And then at the end of 1781, there came a smallpox epidemic to Hawk. And this family was one of the first families to be inoculated against smallpox. So in those days, they didn't have, prepared vaccines. They took from a pustule of an individual who had smallpox and put it under the skin of an individual who was hoping to get protection. And they would hopefully get a milder form of the disease. And as opposed to something like 30% of those who had it dying, if you got smallpox, if you could get inoculated, you did have some chance of dying, but you would then be more immune to subsequent. So the whole family, no, some of the family got inoculated. The point is that we didn't know until Tom Jones did this research. We really didn't know what happened to the children of Joseph and Hannah Tucker. We know Joseph died, but what this article does, and it's an amazing article, what Tom has done is to go because the Tuckers disappeared from the records in Hawk. There were no more Tucker surnames basically after the epidemic was over, because it turns out he figured out the parents, the father had died, and it seems that most probably based on his deductions from these records, their mother also died, and some of the children were taken up by other families, and then we don't know what happened to them. But the point is that Tom used every possible record, every possible shred of evidence. He used town records. He used like the tax records, the vital records. He used probate records. He used military records. And it's amazing to me that he was able to figure out, by putting together pieces of evidence from all these different places, he was able to figure out which Tuckers died, and some of them did survive. So this is a fantastic article for seeing how you can reason from, oftentimes the historical evidence is very fragmented and uncertain. But if you really get thorough search and apply analysis, you can figure out amazing things. So there's a second article by Katie Sternberger, also on smallpox. This is about a smallpox inoculation hospital that was around the same time on an island. 4 doctors set it up on an island off the coast of Portsmouth. And one of the doctors kept a ledger of the patients that when they arrived, when they left, and also incredible genealogical information, such as their age, their places of abode. Sometimes there's a whole string of family of names with the same surname. So if that's your family name, you might be able to figure out quite a bit. There's an enormous amount of genealogical information. And what's amazing is that this document from 1782, it's as clear as if it was written. It's unbelievably preserved. So even if you don't have family that were inoculated in this hospital, it's very interesting to see what they went through for the inoculation. And read a little bit of about smallpox from the references in these articles. It was a horrible disease. It was a horrible disease. It was just intense fever, and they show pictures that the affected individuals have pustules all over their body, even in their mouths. It's hard to eat. It's the ability to vaccinate against this disease it's the first disease that it doesn't exist in people anymore because of very dedicated people who went to even the most remote places in the world whenever they heard of a smallpox case. I actually was vaccinated against smallpox in my youth because it wasn't until the 70s, and I was born in the 1950s, until it was completely eradicated. So it's this article, both of these articles are extremely interesting in terms of history and if they touch on your family. Now, finally, another article in this issue is by Robert Cameron Weir, our publications director. And this is an article, it's a second part of a 2-part series, and it's about the history of our journal, about the history of the New Hampshire Genealogical Record. So this is the first, his part 1, which was already published, was about what's called the old series, which started in the up to 1910. And then it was suspended, and it was the New Hampshire Genealogical Record was started up again in the 1990s. And this article covers it covers the history, and it has it lists every article that has been published in our journal since that time. And it's amazing to me. We have articles on towns in every county of New Hampshire, even towns I've never heard of, like, have you heard of Protectworth? I had never heard of it. That was apparently, let's see, Sunapee. No, Wendell was Sunapee, and Protectworth was Springfield. Those are both fairly close to me, but I had never heard of those names. So that's one of the things I love about working on the New Hampshire Genealogical Record, is that I get to explore all these different towns and find out about their history, find about who moved there and when and why and what happened, Indian raids, wars, what have you. So this is really a great compilation to get. You can search for your family surname, you can search for towns you're interested in. And I hope you enjoy this issue. and honor all of those present and past. This is the tombstone of a reverend who was here in Hanover. And these are tombstones of 3 of his children. See if you can see them. Yeah. One of them died as an infant, and the other 2 died in a year and 2 months and a year, on both, all 3 under 2 years old. So, okay, enjoy this issue, and thank goodness for all the protections of modern science. Okay.